And just like that, we are back for our finale recap of the hit Max original. And just like that, a new chapter of Sex in the City. It is your boy Lucas with my amazingly talented co-host Amaya.
Oh my
I had to try
gosh.
to whisper it. My voice don't be getting as low as it used to.
Listen, that was low enough. That was low enough for the
And
both of
and
us.
we are finally here to bring
Finally.
you our finale recap because for some odd reason, Max decided, hey, critics, we're just not going to give you the last episode like we gave you every other episode. So it delayed us a lot of trying to get this review done, but we even late we said, we still need to do this. This is an amazing closing to a season that we did feel progressed and got better and better and better as it went along. And at the same time, the news dropped that this has been approved for a season 3 pickup
Nice.
right before the finale aired. So clearly, we'll be back also next year to bring you the new chapter of And Just Like That. But here we're talking about the finale chapter of Just Like That, season 2. And this episode is entitled The Last Supper Part 2, Entrée. So let's jump right into the episode, as which I feel is the reason why they didn't give the episode to anyone early, is we get a call back to Samantha
Mm-hmm.
right at the beginning of the episode. I know so many people knew that this was coming. This was the most hype thing talked about um, for season 2, but I always wondered how they would execute it. Here, as Carrie's getting ready to say goodbye to her apartment, she amazingly gets a call from Samantha, and we get a conversation between Carrie and Samantha that, if you know anything going on with the actual actors, you kind of didn't think something like this would ever be possible. What did you think about the way they executed this scene and kind of brought back the original feeling of Carrie and Samantha's relationship from Sex in the City?
I thought it was interesting. I wasn't quite sure where they were going with it. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of wanted more. It just felt it felt a little incomplete, but I get it, right? Like, I totally understand. I think that it was very well played out, like, hey, I can't make it, but I wish I could. And in her, of course, beautifully fashioned Samantha way, she gives her farewell to
Yeah,
the apartment, which just put me right back into what Sex and the City was. I think that it's a great way to do it considering the
yeah,
circumstances. Um,
yeah.
so yeah.
I mean, that's the key part here. For anyone who doesn't know the backstory of this, these two actors have not been in a room together or spoken to one another in around 10 years. And it's not like because they just got out of touch with one another. It's a lot of bad blood behind the scenes between these two. So I found it interesting that they chose to bring back Samantha this way and had it in a sense of them playing lines off of one another, even though I'm almost 100% sure neither one of them actually talked to the other person. They would just
Mm-hmm.
say, hey, read your lines here. This person's going to interject here. This side is going to work. So I did think it was a bigger cameo than I expected. I
Mm-hmm.
expected something real short with Samantha, like maybe 2 words, and then that would be it. But to get this conversation, I thought, okay, this is fitting for the way that this season has gone about saying goodbye to old things, saying goodbye to old friends, because I think that's what this is in the end. Is this is a goodbye to Samantha's character?
Yeah.
Because again, I don't. This character will not continue because of again the uh, behind the scenes drama. I don't think this character will continue on here, so it's good to at least see her. To I would have wished it would have been all 4 of the girls together
Yeah.
because that would have been a better closing to this character. But in the end, I mean, beggars can't be choosers, and this is a moment that people have been waiting for since this show was announced. They were waiting to
Right.
see, are we going to get Samantha back on the show? And here, in a small glimpse, we do get that. But next up is Charlotte, being my favorite human being in the world, waking up. from a night of partying like she went to Beyonce's Renaissance tour and had too much to drink here. What I want to focus on in this scene is Harry's conversation with Charlotte. When Harry says, I need your help, like, uh, you have to do something. And she said, everything you're complaining about is not even, basically, not even a pin drop of what
Not
I had
even
to do,
the
what
surface.
women have to do. You're complaining about doing the minimal
Hmm.
work here when I've done beyond that for years. What did you think about this conversation and about her letting it be known to Harry, I need you to have my back, even with dealing with Anthony and his stuff. Let him know I am not prepared for this. This is not the day
Hmm.
for this. What did you just think about that nice conversation? Because we don't see Charlotte be that forceful with Harry before. This is the first time, and I guess it's an awakening for her, of her like standing up for herself. Like, no, you will not guilt me into thinking I'm doing something wrong.
I I really loved that conversation. There were so many conversations that I loved in this episode. They did
Hmm.
such a very good job. Because the one thing I think that's a what they call those things, a miss, um what's that word? It's whatever, it's gonna come to me when I need it. But I felt misconception. There we go. See how that works. I think there's a misconception that when married couples have these types of conversations, they're rough, they're abrasive, they're
Hmm.
not in love, that they're, you know what I mean, that they're like not actually talking to each other. And for me to see the step by step, because she didn't like uh negate his feelings, right? She just stated like, this is just the surface, this is the bare minimum. So if you're complaining about this, like, imagine what we do and what we're expected to do, because she made it very clear, it's not, you're not always wanting, but it's expected of moms to just wear that on their backs and go.
Hmm.
um but I love that he didn't fight, right? He didn't like argue with her points. They simply came to a conclusion and she asked for help. And she's saying that starts now. And so I really love that dynamic, and it makes me take note to what a conversation should look like with the person that you're married to and in love with, even when
Hmm.
it's supposedly like a hard conversation or whatever. So I really
Yeah.
enjoyed it.
Yes. So again, as you pointed out, this is one of many great conversations that we see in this episode from almost all the couples here, which is very rare that you get to clean up a finale this way, where at least all it feels like everyone has some poignant to get off of their chest. And speaking
Mm-hmm.
of that, next up, Miranda and Steve. As Miranda goes by Steve's new place, I'm just going to set it up this way. I don't want to go through their whole conversation. Even though I love their whole conversation, I don't want to go through their whole conversation. This is all reflective back to Naya telling Miranda, I want to be more like you with my exes, the way you cut everyone off.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think this was her first attempt to correct that? Or do you think this is just two people who were in love with one another, realizing like we still care for one another, even though we're not together anymore? Or is
It's a
it
little bit
both?
of both. Yeah, it's a little bit of both, right? Because you realizing that Steve has this relationship with Carrie. I don't think that they're gonna stop having that friendship,
Yeah.
right? And so I don't want to hear about what's happening in your life through a friend of mine that you met through me. Like, you know what I mean? So,
Hmm.
but also I think it is I think maybe it could partially be also guilt, right? That she's the one that quote unquote kind of created the raft or the riffraff,
Yeah.
in the marriage. And so I think for sure it's both. And that's there's nothing wrong with that. And I love how she does it, because she's saying, I don't want it to be this way. It doesn't have to be this
Yes.
way. Can we? Will you allow me to be part of your life? And again, back to the conversations that are being had, this is the adult and mature way to have these kind of conversations. You can
Yes.
have disagreements, and then you can still actually move past that if you have a conversation in love with positive energy. Like, all those things have to be there, because Steve wasn't like on the offense. He wasn't standoffish towards Miranda. And I love how he completed her statement by saying, we did do a lot of things, together, a lot of right things. And she said, except for us. And he goes, no, I was right about us for a very long time. That is valid. And I love that because it
Hmm.
doesn't mean you have to, like, all of a sudden stop thinking that because it didn't work out for in this chapter per se, right? Because they were
Yeah,
married for a very long time doesn't mean that it wasn't right for the time that it was right. It's just true.
it goes back to the old saying that has come back a bit, especially with the new generation of grown adults, us getting into our 40s or late 30s, I should say. And that is, getting a divorce isn't necessarily a failure of your relationship. It's it could be just a growth of your relationship. If I meet someone in my 20s, what's the chances that we're the same people in our 30s and our 40s? If we are, something's really wrong.
Yeah, we're not.
And maybe we can, and maybe we do grow apart, but that doesn't mean the love stops. That doesn't
Right.
mean us deciding that, you know what, going through life with one another wouldn't be a good idea. Like, it needs to stop here to maintain some form of relationship. And I think that's what Steve's biggest point is when he says, like, no, I was right about us. We were right for a long time. They were
Right.
married for a long time.
Yeah.
And yet and still, even through the divorce, they still get along in a way. Like, it's still, I love when he said, when you said you want to, like, be with me in the future and the present, like,
Right.
you
As
mean like
friends,
as a
right?
friends, right? Because you going back and forth with that, I don't want any parts of that. It's
I
so much honesty in
Yeah.
that
I
statement.
can't take you being straight again. Okay, woman, get it together. This.
Exactly. It's almost him telling her, I believe this is you and this is how you're going to get your happiness. Don't
Mm-hmm.
lean back on me and think that's going to be okay. Like, no, I don't want any parts of that.
Yeah.
And just the acknowledgement that they both understood each other, and even the little touching on the back, and we see Grady looking on at his parents. It's not a situation where he's thinking his parents are getting back together.
But
It's
he
that they can
sees.
coexist with one
Mm-hmm.
another,
Yeah.
which is the most important thing to him. Is like, I don't have to ever have that situation where I can't invite both of my parents somewhere because
Right.
they don't get
Exactly.
along. So I
Yeah.
think that's an amazing closing. Next up again is Naya, and we're going to go back in order this episode because way too many important conversations, too many important things for me to jump around like I would normally love to do here. But first, Naya is given a prestigious award from the some bar association.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if I
It's
did not pay
it's
attention
it's
to it.
le- it's legal.
Yeah,
Lawyer.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. What's the most interesting part of this is once she gets home, she tells Miranda about it, and she says the first person she picked up her phone to call is Andre
It's
Rashad,
Andre. Mm-hmm.
her ex. And what's poignant here is her basically saying, I want someone to share these moments with.
Mm-hmm.
And her feeling lonely because she doesn't have that person. What you think about this level of honesty, especially after what we've seen from her in the last couple of episodes of her, romping her way around the city thinking that was going to make her happy, and hear her admitting, like, I want someone. Like, I want someone to share those moments with me.
I mean, I think that the unfortunate thing is that for a lot of the black women who are watching this show, right, um, there are probably quite a few who are in this situation who have doctorates and are thriving in their career, but they don't have a significant other. And I think that there's this weird thing where it feels like you're not supposed to need or want someone, right? Or
Yeah.
that, it's desperate or whatever the case is. And I love that she's not only was she vulnerable in saying it, but in her look, the watering in the eyes, the
Hmm.
kind of like not shakiness, but sort of shakiness in her voice. It's all real, right? Like the
Yeah.
fact that I'm still dating in my late 30s is a very weird space to be when you feel like you've reached a certain level. You're like, damn, okay, so like I'm here, but you know what I mean? And it's not
Yeah.
because companionship is very important. And I think that we need to treat it as such. I think it needs to be like black women aren't so strong that we can just be in the world alone. You know what I mean? I love
Yeah.
that she acknowledged that she wanted to call Andre, that she really wanted to share that moment with him, because I think piece of that, and just for a real quick second, like the conversation that she has with the other prestigious professor and or lawyer who's come in to give her the news,
Yeah.
it's almost like he had to tell her, I mean, in a way he did, like, you do deserve this, right? Like, you have worked
Hmm.
hard for this. You are worthy of this award that we're giving you. And I think she needed to have both those experiences, right? Like for somebody, a man specifically, to say, you know, you deserve this, but then also to have that vulnerability and say, like, I wish I had someone to share this with. It's very real.
Hmm.
And I love that they showed that side of her, because it's something that a lot of us are just dealing with, and it's okay to actually say it. And you'll have friends like Miranda who will acknowledge it but also try to cheer you up about it.
Yeah. Especially when she tried to back out of the party and
Yeah,
said,
that's not happening.
Michelin chef, like, why would you pass up on this to be sad at home? Like,
Yeah,
it's what's the point?
yeah.
Don't let it overtake you. But next up, we get to the dinner party.
Mm-hmm.
And the first people we run into is Herbert and Lisa as they run into Charlotte. As Charlotte sees Lisa take a drink, and this is where Lisa decides to share the news with Charlotte that she lost a baby. It's not much to talk about in this scene, really, to me, because it happens later on. We really get to talk about Lisa and Herbert, but this is the first introduction of it as we kind of see just how emotional Lisa is about it when Charlotte goes to console her and she says, not here, not now.
Yeah.
Like to cut her off because she couldn't deal with that in that moment. But again, we'll talk about it later because it's another poignant moment that really brings that point home. Next up, we get
Well,
a conversation. Oh, go ahead. I'm
I was
sorry.
just gonna say, I let's just for a second give pause to Charlotte's reaction, right? Because I think that sometimes, even though you don't know what to say, consoling
Hmm.
is very big, and I just love how vulnerable Charlotte was in that moment. Considering where they were, she
Yeah,
didn't let that stop her feelings to be there for her friend and to also show, like,
yeah.
I'm also taken aback. You know what I mean? So I actually really just love that piece there with Charlotte.
Yeah. Let's talk about a conversation that I didn't think we needed. I would have never thought we needed. I never thought we would have gotten this conversation. And boy, is this a great conversation. And this is a very short one between Che and Lisette.
Mm-hmm.
As Lisette sees Che come in, immediately knows who Che is, tells them how much she loves the podcast, and asks them, "Is there anything coming up?" And this is when Che gets vulnerable, and they said, "No, like
Yeah.
I'm in a point in
Transitioning.
my life where I'm transitioning."
Yeah.
And not going to go any further. What did you think about Lisette's response to Che saying they are transitioning?
I mean, I literally in my head was like spot on. You know what I mean? Because so many times as adults, and I'm talking
Hmm.
about real adults, right? In your late 30s adults, in your 40s and 50s adults, there is this judgment or disdain when someone comes to you and tells you they're in transition or they're changing. It's like, oh, you too grown for that, or but the
Yeah.
Lisette was so welcoming that she was just like, oh, so you're in your cocoon phase. It's really just that simple. You
Yep.
are in a cocoon phase and you will blossom into the butterfly. And she shares her own story. I was there too, and then I woke up and I made this butterfly ring. And and she's like, I like butterflies, but obviously it still had the meaning behind the transition
Yeah.
too. And I love that because it's powerful for people to understand, like, age is technically just a number, right? And we get that there's so many stipulations and boxes placed around us when growing up about what you're supposed to be and where you're supposed to be. But if it is necessary for you to go into a transition and go into your cocoon, by all means, do that shit.
Yeah. And that's a Beautiful way to put it, because it was again, it's an amazing scene. I would have never thought it would be something we needed to ever see. Speaking of things that I would have never thought to happen, because I would not expect Naya to get a call back, and that is her running into the Michelin chef as her and Miranda arrive, only to find out it's the guy we met in episode 2 that
Mm-hmm.
she met at the bar.
Yeah.
It's a good callback because it kind of gives her hope in the situation which she didn't have it before. And it again, it I think that's the point of this show at times, is to show that hey, you never know what life can throw you. And
Yeah.
that this was life throwing her another opportunity, is something that she was holding on to her marriage, and that's the only reason she turned him down the first time. Only
Right.
to her proudly say this time when he
I'm
says, "Yeah,
not.
you're married." Oh, I'm not. I'm not married anymore.
Yeah.
I'm single. I'm ready to
Yeah.
mingle. Wide open for business. 7-Eleven out this jump.
Sir. Sir, cut it out.
But next up, the other important conversation we've been waiting for them to have, and this is Che and Miranda's conversation, and their brutally honest conversation with one another here. What did you think about the way this started when Miranda attempted to blame Che for everything? And Che says, I thought we were good too until you didn't answer my texts or you didn't answer my calls. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we ended on good terms, but clearly we didn't. And then Miranda admits, oh, I ghost people after
Mm-hmm.
relationships. Like, what did you think about this bluntly honest conversation between these two here?
First of all, Miranda showed up and tapped Shay on the shoulder like Shay owed her some money. You feel me? I was
Yeah.
like, damn, you would have dressed, but you ready to collect this? You on a mafia type of it. Okay. But I love that. I love that Shay was honest. Miranda
Mhm.
came into that space, because initially she was abrupt because like not abrupt with Shay, but just with the idea, with the thought of really being honest that okay, it was a little bit of a shit show, like how do we go from here? And Shay being honest, like I will never say those jokes again. I did think that they were funny, and Miranda saying, but like we're here, like what I mean, they weren't funny to me, and what about us, like was it all just bad? And I think that there's some part of what's the word, I guess knowingness, I don't even know if that's the word we're
Mhm.
just gonna go with, right? Knowingness
So we can go
that
for, yeah. That's a new word now.
that that she just wasn't, that the experience wasn't all bad, because I feel like Miranda keeps equating the experience, the relationship, with just herself. Does that make sense? Right.
Yes. Hmm.
So instead of just saying like the experience, everything that occurred, the relationship as a total, the two of them together just did not mix. Versus her taking all the
Hmm.
blame on. And so I like that eventually she got to that moment, and Shay also was just like, hey, like, okay, we were a good train wreck, as Miranda wanted to say. We got off where we needed to, and only this train could get us there. I mean, it's not a bad way to look at things, because, I mean,
Yeah.
at some point in time, the reality is one breakup that probably tossed you around a bit and maybe put you in a trash compactor, and you came out on the other side. That could have been the garbage man of your dreams. You know what I mean? And you, boom, you
Mm.
meet the person that you need. So I think that if we did look at it from that point of view, like sometimes bad things do happen, but they always say like bad things and good people doesn't always mean that you're bad people. You see what I'm saying? So I feel like
Hmm.
giving some grace in the situation to say like, yeah, this happened, but was it really all bad? Because I don't think it was all bad. I do think that they were both
No.
in places of transition and change and uncertainty and
Yes.
unfamiliarity. So they learned a lot about themselves, and now they're here.
Yes. That's a good way to put it, because both of them were in that mode. From Miranda leaving her marriage to Che establishing their career
Hmm.
and seeing what that meant for them. It was both of them transitioning at the exact same time and running into each other. And unfortunately, at times, people make that mistake of thinking this relationship is supposed to last forever.
Yeah.
No, sometimes you're just supposed to get a lesson from it and move on. And that doesn't mean I need to be enemies. We don't need to hate each other, but it just happens that way from
Right.
time to time. And speaking of relationships and things happening from time to time, This is a relationship that I'm almost sure I was getting tired of running its course, and I have questions on the way this relationship ended because um certain things just didn't didn't seem as tough as it should have been. I'll
All
put it
right
that
now.
way.
Okay, we doing it. All right, I'm here.
So through this entire episode, we have multiple situations with Giuseppe and Anthony, as Giuseppe is still trying to deal with Anthony being a strict power top and him not fully understanding why Anthony, nor am I or the audience understanding how that's the case. But we get Giuseppe here as he's talking about going back home to Rome. And he uses this as an analogy for his relationship with Anthony about the
Hmm.
walls he puts up to stop him from getting close and him equating the way Anthony acts to New York City. What did you think about this very short conversation, assisted by Harry, who, as he said, if we man, Harry, as Herbert said, Harry, you would be great at Scrabble. Like for him pulling out those words. What did you just think about this conversation? And here, I'm just gonna go overall with him because it's not that much to talk about. I just never thought a storyline would be about a man bottoming, but okay. So, and what that meant for his partner.
I think that first of all, I'm surprised that they didn't make Anthony's character do something crazy in that moment because deadass, I thought that he was about to be like impenetrable. Like I thought it was gonna be a whole different scene, and I was like, oh, this is very tasteful. Look at me being hood, okay. Um, I think that I love that Giuseppe is bringing this out of him, right? The
Yeah,
He just got the letter from the ex-husband, right? And
yeah,
giving all the possessions away and moving on and da da da. And so I think that the whole entire season for real, it was really just like love and so many other things. But
yeah,
I just had to say that the way that Giuseppe is saying, why won't you open yourself up, right? And even though it's a metaphor and it's also physically, I think that it's something that people in general have to look at. Like a lot of us
hmm,
are willing to have sex, but we're not willing to actually be vulnerable because technically Anthony was having sex, but he wasn't
yep,
actually being vulnerable. And so for me, I thought that just seeing him have that moment of like, oh my God, like you're leaving, and like this is just shock to me, like and
yeah.
being able to think those things through in that moment, I thought that that was very clever. So I liked it.
Hey, I mean, it was a nice, clean ending to their story. I'll put it, I'll put it that way. Even down to the montage of what we see, because I had questions there, but I'm gonna leave all my questions alone because maybe they're not questions I need answers to. But I remember the way we met Giuseppe, and then Anthony saying he's never done something before, and seems like it'd be way more painful than what they showed on television. But I digress. I'm
It
not a
was
cuss.
painful. You didn't see Anthony doing the. See, you're not a woman, so you wouldn't know what that
I'm about to say
means.
because
But but
I wouldn't think this would be enough.
it's the same as this. It's the same
Ah,
as
oh, okay, okay,
okay. Moving on.
yeah, okay. Thank you for clearing that up for me because I was completely lost. What was what was going on there? Oh man. Oh, next up, we get Seema, who is still absolutely paranoid that she told Ravi that she loved him.
Hmm.
What do you think about Carrie attempting to calm her down in this moment and informing her it's not him? I think it's you. You're creating this problem because he absolutely adores you the way he looks at you. What do you think about, again, they always had these two have had possibly the most honest relationship so far this season.
Hmm.
Down
I.
to even when Carrie fell in love with Aiden again, and Seema said, "I just need time," and Carrie gave it to
Hmm.
her. But here, Carrie steps up and be's the friend that's letting her know, like, I think you're doing this. It's not him. It's you.
Hmm. I think that a good friend will be honest with you.
Mhm.
I think that there comes a time where sometimes you don't need to respond. You just need to listen, right? Because
Mm.
Carrie saw Seema about to respond, and she was like, "Breathe. I think that this is you, right?" This is
Hmm.
new for you. You are afraid, but take a moment and breathe. And I think that so much of me watching this season, especially these last like 3, 4 episodes, I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm just doing a friend inventory. I'm like,
Mm.
who has me like this? Like, who can be brutally honest but doesn't like? Because there's a difference between being honest and like shitting on somebody, right? Like
Yes.
to be nasty. So let's be clear because this is how it's supposed to be done. And I just love that Carrie, even though it being her party, right, and that she had so much going on, she still was able to find time for her friend to have a moment to say like, hey,
Hmm.
like it's okay, like I'm here, but this is the moment, but like just, and I thought that that was necessary for Seema because she was spiraling, which we see a little bit further
Yes.
down in the episode. So yeah.
Extremely paranoid. That's the best Seema you're going to get here.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it makes sense from the way we've seen Seema this entire season, and her basically telling Carrie at the beginning, like, "You've had great loves. I've not had one."
Mm-hmm.
And the point that Robbie could be that person, I think that's what's terrifying for Seema, because your great love is always someone who you don't see coming, and I think she had planned out her life meticulously.
Oh
So
yeah.
something unplanned just does not fit
Mm-hmm.
in her world, and this is throwing her off a
Yeah.
lot. Next up is Carrie introducing the cat, the kitty, to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And this absolutely breaking Lisa, just for the way that Carrie describes the cat to everyone. And we get the scene where Lisa and Herbert are in the restroom. And Lisa asks the question, did she wish the baby away?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that statement? And what do you think about Herbert's response to her in that moment?
So I'm gonna try to do this like without crying, but I watched when like watching the episode, there were like all these feelings that came up. I instantly understood what Lisa was feeling, right? Because and I have a cat, right? Well, I got my mom a cat, and so cat, you start off as a kitten and whatnot. Um, they are these like very delicate creatures that you just can't help. But like cats and dogs is not the same. It's just it's different. Like you just have to have tried both in order to understand. But um, I understood Lisa's space because depending on where you are in your life when you get pregnant, right? Your first thoughts are to think your life through. Like really you're thinking so many different things through when that test says positive or you got that plus
Hmm.
sign. And I thought that it was just so honest and so real for her to like have that moment because it's it's an honest moment. And I kind of knew
Yeah.
that I kind of felt like they were going to go there because Lisa is very hardworking. She was thinking about the docu-series and all this other stuff. Like, they got 2 kids. It wasn't what she was planning. And I thought to myself, like, oh my God. And I'm looking at how Herbert is handling it. And, we both know my situation was a little different. So to have somebody who like that you've been in it with, like that you've been in it
Yeah.
with, right? Like Herbert grounds her despite their like weird
Power
dynamic
struggle
in
at
their
times.
relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. But he grounds her, and I like that he's like, it wasn't meant to be, right? Like, don't even put those thoughts in your beautiful head, like. And I think that I love that they're showing this process of grief because I think sometimes you do feel like you went through it, like you're good, like, like not right now, like I'll deal with it in my own time kind of thing. But seeing that was like, okay, they did a really good job as
Hmm.
somebody who went through it. I was able to get all the feels, but I was also able to be like, oh, okay, I could take some
Yeah.
of that from me as well and be like, it just wasn't meant to be. And
Yeah.
you just, keep moving forward. So
Yeah. Next up, we get the start of the dinner. Another situation between Robbie and Seema. I don't know if there's anything in this moment because we get a later moment with them. That's definitely something to talk about. I don't know if there's anything in this moment to talk about besides him getting his filming dates now switched, him getting a once in a lifetime opportunity, Seema using that again as an excuse, possibly to believe that this is why the relationship is not going to work out between them two. I don't think it's anything that deep to go in here. I think a lot of that's going to be in the next scene with them two.
Well, this is a scene.
This isn't the scene in the hotel room between them two. This is the scene right at the bottom of the steps
Well,
of
no, I think
Carrie's dinner.
that when she said that the main course had started and that he was missing it.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
will say that I do think so, only because he acknowledges her insecurities, her distrust, and her fear by kind of saying like, well, he doesn't kind of, he says this is all you, right? Like this is all you, and you
Mm,
think that I would actually fake a reason to leave you after you said I love you
I
when I
love you.
said it right back to you. So I think that that's the key point because it allows Seema to be still, like, because she didn't talk. She said what she said, and then Robbie really went into it and was like, no, 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 no. So I think that I know that it's romanticized, right? That men will do this kind of thing. It doesn't always happen that way. Would it be nice that if a man felt something about you and he could see like whatever was happening with you, that he could acknowledge and say it? I think that's a level of self awareness and partner awareness that you have to have in order to be able to
Mm-hmm.
be honest with your person like that. But I do think that that's a part of being in a relationship and or starting a relationship and acknowledging the fear that exists. So I thought that was a good part of the conversation from Robbie's part for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay. That's a good angle I didn't see. I was going to loop it all into that last conversation between them two. But next up
Mm-hmm.
is the dinner party game that I can't wait to play with people. This is an
Listen,
interesting game here.
we're doing that before the end of the year. Okay.
As Carrie goes around the table and tells everyone, name one thing you would like to let go of, but you can only use one word to describe it. So, what I'm going to ask you is not your thoughts about this scene, but what would be the one thing you would want to let go of off of, and what word would you use for it?
Limitations.
Hmm.
Yeah, limitations.
Yeah, I'm not answering that question for you. Now I just need to know,
Oh my
what did you think about the scene?
god. I thought it was powerful that it was
Hmm.
fitting for every individual, every single
Yes.
thing, right? Somebody mentioned control, somebody mentioned fear, somebody mentioned limits, somebody mentioned
Hmm.
guilt. Um, I think when you get to listen, when you get to a certain level, mentally and emotionally within yourself, you start to seek out people who are in that same realm. You have to grow your
Hmm.
friendships. You have to shift your friendships, right? Because some things are just not going to do. And I think in that moment, they were cohesive. They were all friends. They all had this understanding to shed something and a need to shed something. And I think that it just showed like the power of words, and support from the group, right? Because everybody kind of was like,
Hmm.
that's a good thing. And I wish I would
Yeah.
assume like it's kind of standard, right? Like, that's a good one. Like, I was going to say that, you know? I love that. It felt very grown and sexy. And I just love, and I can't wait to host something as phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah. That threw me off that everyone went around the table that way. And Lisette was the one who brought up fear. And we saw the way everyone reacted to her saying it because all of them felt it. But it's like, wow, did we get a little too real here by bringing it?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
amazing that a one word response can trigger so many people. I love that when was it Miranda that said guilt, and
Mm-hmm.
Lisa came behind her and said, "Oh, that was gonna be my word."
Mm-hmm.
And part of the rules was you couldn't repeat the word, but then Lisa said, "I can't give you this one." I
Yeah.
have to say it
Yeah.
because we understand what she's going through at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just a way for people to be vulnerable in spurts,
Yeah.
because sometimes that's the most comfortable way to be vulnerable. Like if I
Absolutely.
have to give a huge speech after I did said the word, it will possibly make me uncomfortable. But if I could just say the word and then live in that for a moment,
Yeah.
like that's being extremely vulnerable around people who I may not know. As Naya said, like I don't know any of the people here.
Yeah.
Like that was a great scene. And I can't wait to do something like that. Yes, we need to still certain games like this
We can just
for us.
co-host.
There you go. There you
Yeah.
go. And we need a Michelin star chef. So any Michelin star chefs out there that charge under $10 a plate, just and let us know.
Listen.
Look, look, I ain't got Michelin star money right now.
Listen, I
But
don't
we could,
either.
if you would like to sponsor us on Big Gold Belt, and we'll do a big dinner party for our top 10 viewers
Listen. Or I mean, if
of
you want
our
to sponsor us and you want us to do a whole review or live while dinner is happening with the chef, like that's an option too.
oh man, that
Sponsorships,
would be super dope.
yeah,
Hmm. See how a joke can turn into something amazing,
that's
an
because we're
amazing
amazing.
idea.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Which at
I
that point,
always knew it.
if we co-host a dinner, people are gonna think we're married at this point. Like, I mean,
I
just
mean, if you didn't threaten to divorce me every week, I
I
mean,
mean,
maybe. But every
it
week I
was
gotta do all my life I got to.
you judged my kitten heels. That was
Because grown people shouldn't wear kitten heels. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Unless you're poolside or Peg Bundy, you're not really allowed to wear kitten heels.
all
But
right. Fine.
next up, we get as they wrap up the dinner party, and I guess the biggest thing here is Miranda's boss reaches out to her about an opportunity. And the reason I want to bring this up is because I don't think we've seen Miranda this happy all
Mm-hmm.
season. Matter of fact, over the last 2 seasons,
Yeah.
this this reminded me of her joy when she was practicing law on Sex in the City. Like maybe this is the fulfillment that Miranda has been looking for the whole entire time. What did you think about her reaction to being given this opportunity, and this opportunity opening up the door again for her to meet someone who she had lots of chemistry off of in the short scene we saw with them earlier this season?
Was that chemistry or was that the woman who she did the she
I thought that was Joy. Joy, the woman. I remember when her and her boss went to the studio. I thought that's what with Joy, and Joy was the
right?
British woman who she met there.
You thought that was
And
chemistry?
remember her and Miranda? Yeah, when they were flirting on the street with one another
I thought that was
when they
Korea
first met.
chemistry.
No, they were flirting.
Really?
They were flirting with each other,
Damn, I
and we
missed
saw
that.
the look back Miranda gave her when she was walking away. Like it was at a point where
Mm,
her and Shay was ending, and it was, what type of woman do you like? This is right after she met the author, who she realized was a fake person from Brooklyn,
really?
and we see Miranda's reaction to her, and I thought then like, oh, like this is
Oh.
the woman, this is the type of woman Miranda wants to be with. So I thought that then in this moment it gave her a chance again to open that door again, but it also gave Miranda a chance to be open and honest about something she extremely cares about, which it used to be causes used to be the thing that pushed Miranda more than anything. And this is the
Mm-hmm.
first time in and just like that where we get to see Miranda care about something other than Grady.
Yeah. I think that it's because she's not just because she's passionate, that she's where she was and per se, like as far as her
Yeah.
path, like the law and things like that, but she's passionate about what she's studying for the law, like how
Yeah.
she can assist using the law in certain situations like this. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought that was very clever how they used it. It was really great to see her happy, to be quite honest, like to see her
Mm-hmm.
feel fulfilled. That's why I think it looked like it felt like she belonged. It was almost like for me my moment with you all where I went out to LA for the red carpet, and I felt like I was nervous when I got there, like and then I was like, oh, I'm good,
Yeah.
like I belong here, like this feels great. And so I love that for her because I think that it's good that she's doing for herself now. That
Hmm.
she's not necessarily looking to like, to get into anything, but it's kind of happenstance for her. But
Yeah,
I am completely shocked that I missed that. But okay.
yeah, that's the first thing I picked up on. I thought, oh, okay, that's interesting. And next up, speaking of interesting, we get the conversation between Robbie and Seema back at the hotel, where he asks her to go with him to Cairo. What I want to ask here, I'm trying to find a nice way to say this. We've seen Seema struggle this entire season about doubting how much this man loved her. In this moment, he says it and she completely believes him. But when he asks her, well, go away with me, like you're your own boss. Like nothing's holding you back. The one thing Seema pulls out her head to hold her back is I've built this career that I don't want to leave. What do you think of that being her response to Robbie in this moment?
I dislike the willingness to compromise. Okay, he's going for 5 months. You can't do 5 months. Can you do one? Can you do two? Can you go for 1 month, come back for two, and go back for
Yeah.
another? I felt like, and this is also something that I am challenged with certain friends when we talk about
Hmm.
certain instances, right? You you are not giving,
Yeah.
especially when you are your own boss. You call the shots, you make the rules. You didn't have to give up your place. You don't have to give up your career. You can simply go on a small sabbatical. 30 days is not going to do. You're
Yep.
selling properties like this to, so you got money stacked hopefully away. You got the Birkin and all this other stuff, right? You could have
Yeah.
made a small compromise. Hey, I'm so glad that you asked me. Maybe I can't do the whole 5, but can I come in and do the first 30 with you? Maybe I'll come back. But there was no
Yep.
discussion about visiting. And it just felt very like you either want and need or you don't. It's very weird. It's you wanted
Hmm.
this love, even dare I say that you felt like you needed to experience this kind of love, and you're not even willing to give a small piece of you in
Hmm.
exchange for what he's asking of you. And that's why the conversation, when we have those relationship conversations, most of men often say that they don't find women to be compromising. They don't find them to
Mm.
be willing to give a little, but you're asking me for a whole lot. You guys are both millionaires, right? Because I mean, I'm just gonna, at least I think that's the case.
Yeah. Clearly, Seema is rich, rich. This shouldn't not even been a discussion. I think he pointed it out when he said, "You don't have to be here for work. Like your work can literally come with you." But it's just a fear thing of hers to even jump that deep in. And it some people need a sure bet to do anything.
Hmm.
And I think Seema's one of those people.
But is
It
it a
you have
sure
to do
bet
almost
though?
guarantable her a win
But that's the
for her to
thing.
get comfortable enough to do it.
But nothing is guaranteed. People get married every
That's
day,
the problem.
and people get divorced.
That
So
but
like,
I think that's the reason why she pushes people away from being in relationships. Like
it's
I think
possible.
mentally she needs it 100%. It's guaranteed we'll always be together. But she know that's not realistic. So I think that's part of what helps her push off relationships.
Yeah,
Her saying, "Yeah, I can't do this because if he breaks my heart, that's gonna be it."
yeah.
Like it's kind of a weird transition there between them, but I do think it's a very interesting one. Next up, we get to the end of the dinner, and we get Mr. Aiden coming back from West Virginia.
Hmm.
It's an odd place to have a farm, not because West Virginia doesn't have farmland, but because they have sex with cousins. But I digress.
Oh my
So
god,
he comes back to New York. He actually comes into the apartment, which was sign number one. This was not going to be good.
that part.
And while in there, he breaks the news to Carrie about his son and about him needing 5 years before they can be together. First, I'm going to ask you, what did you think about the reasoning of him pulling back from Carrie? Was what was going on with his son?
I mean, right. So
I
here's the
was
thing.
waiting, like you got to come up with something.
As somebody who, because I know a lot of people like, oh, you don't got kids, you can't give an opinion. I'm gonna give the opinion of a child, of an adult who was a child to a mother who thought that she needed to make me her life. And I don't,
Mm,
and I love my mother dearly, right? I was not a problem child, as it seems that I don't necessarily think he's a problem child. I think that he's having a hard time adjusting and transitioning that his dad is dating
yes.
somebody new, which I feel like could be dealt with if both parents came together and had a conversation about
Mm,
how this is going to work. And also, why could he not move to New York? The whole point of having the house was so the kids could visit. You could have
mm-hmm.
said, I'm bringing him here. And or you could have said, maybe I'll just see you once a month instead of every other week. And because is he not going to ever go to his mother's house? Is he not ever going to be
That's what
out of
Carrie
his
acts.
sight?
Yeah.
It's just so this is the flip side of Seema and Ravi. It's Aiden not being willing to compromise because he thinks somehow he's now feeling the guilt that his son
Mm-hmm.
took the psilocybin, had a beer and crashed the car. It's I just feel like you can't. It was a lot.
I
Looking
about to say
at
you can
the
say it. I know what you're thinking, so you can go ahead and
listen,
say it.
the fact that you want me to wait 5 years for you and that you
It's
imaginary
ridiculous.
snapped. It's the imaginary snap for me. I ought to slap the back of your head. Okay, I just felt like it's selfish. It's selfish.
Yes.
It's not compromising the point. Listen, if you are in a relationship and neither one of you are compromising, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, if you don't need to compromise, hey, shout outs to you. Please give me the recipe. But I feel like this was a perfect opportunity for him to say, like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
I can't come every other weekend, but I could come the last weekend of the month. Or I could bring him with me when I come in. Like, there were just so many options. But what I
Mm-hmm.
do love is that at least Carrie, I don't want to say handled it.
Settled.
I
That's
just
what it
I'm
was.
yeah, I'm torn with that.
I
I'm torn.
mean, in all honesty, um, this is why people at times say they have issue with dating people with kids. Because if your child's always gonna be first in your life, will that ever leave room for someone else to come in?
You
It's
you
kind of
have to
hard
no, you have to be
because I'm
willing
coming
to be
in
second.
knowing that I'm gonna be second fiddle.
Second, and he
And
has two, right? Which means she's third.
three,
So she's
no,
fourth.
three.
She's
Because
fourth.
remember, and he brings up, like, not only does he bring up Wyatt and saying, well, he wouldn't go with his mom. I've been always the constant one. The reverse flip is Aiden is playing more like what people perceive the moms to be
Mm-hmm.
in this situation, where his ex-wife, as he said, she goes out the country, she goes on trips, she spends time with her relationship. So she's willing to nurture other things besides her children.
Right.
But he isn't.
Yeah.
And instead, he turns and tells the woman that he's supposedly in love with, I need you to wait till he goes off to high school. Can anyone ever tell me, when did raising children stop at high school?
No, he said
He's gonna have the same issue.
teenage
Teenage
years.
years.
So
When does
college when
that
he goes
stop
off
it?
to college.
Because the weird part is, in that same breath, when Carrie asked him about the home and the house, and he said, well, I also have two others. I got one in the 20s and one in the 17. Like, they all need me. Excuse me,
Yeah.
sir?
He just
Like,
doesn't know how to be.
then yes, like, then you might as well openly admit that I don't know how to make my kids second fiddle to my relationship.
Yeah.
And I think that's highly important, because once you create that bond with someone, they can't be second fiddle. Like, everything else needs to fall behind them. And I understand for a lot of people that is hard and difficult to think about, but even your children,
Yeah.
You need to fall back second to your relationship
Yeah.
because that's something new you're attempting to nurture. You're trying to build a life with somebody.
And I think
You
it was
can't
weird.
build a life with someone in second place.
No, when Carrie asked to come too, and it was very like
Yeah,
it was just it's a no for me. It's a no for me.
yeah,
Like, and I think that you got to have some alligator skin to date people sometimes with kids because you are going to be second if there's one, and if there's
yeah.
five, then you six. You know what I mean? And so I think that there's something that most people are not prepared for. But
Mm-hmm.
also, what I will say is perhaps once things got serious with Carrie, Aiden
Mm-hmm.
should have had different conversations with the kids to kind of prepare them for what was to come once the
Mm-hmm.
house was bought. Once, you know what I mean? Because you didn't just up and start coming every other weekend. You had to like prepare and, so hey, this is
Mm-hmm.
what's happening. You know what I mean? So you gotta know your kids. I'm not saying that you're gonna know them like inside and out, and
Yeah.
you can't foresee everything that's gonna happen. But I'm saying you kind of gotta know the temperament, the personalities enough to say, like,
Mm-hmm.
let me think about how this may or may not affect them. You know what I mean?
Wow. Like that's I just felt there was an excuse. It threw me off completely. And then to come back and tell the person you love that I need you to wait 5 years for me, like he about to do a prison bid, like that was insane. But we understand at that moment, Carrie's word at the dinner was expectations, and part of it is
Mm-hmm.
letting go of expectations to her.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the things she let go of, but this is one of the things you actually should hold on to. Like, you should not be letting go of a person telling you in 5 years we should be good.
Yeah.
And you just wait around for 5. It made no sense in the grand scheme of things for the character of Carrie, but it makes sense with Aiden because
Yeah.
we've seen him do this entire time. He always put his kids above her.
Yeah.
And this is no different because I'd have told the kid, look, nah, you with your mama. Like, I'm going to go what I need to do. Like, I'm not going to be home.
Yeah.
But he's just so terrified that it could lead something tragic loss of his child because he wasn't there. I think that's the pushback
But
that
options.
Curry's getting.
You got a whole new house.
My
Options.
God, move him in. We're
Option.
fine.
It
We
was
can
just
move
crazy.
in.
Listen, even if again, like I said, if every other month, right? If Carrie came
Mm-hmm.
or you came, if it was that Carrie had to come the entire 5 years, I'm not saying she would, nor sure she'd really have to. But if the event that she said, okay, for the first year, I'll just come
Mm.
once a month to spend time with you. How could you dare tell me no? Huh?
Man, that was. This is the first time I was kind of disappointed by Curry's reaction
I
because
was too,
that
but
no
also it
carried
didn't.
so much weight behind it.
Yeah, it did. I'm gonna tell you this. I dislike this scene because I don't like that he came into her house, a house that he said he would never come into,
Never coming again to break her heart.
yeah, to break her heart.
It
Like
felt
I
like Get
don't.
Back.
It just was weird. I'm not a fan.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm not a
yeah.
fan.
Very. That's a very difficult way to put that. Next up, we had a montage of couples of everybody having sex, or making life well, or just sleeping as Herbert and Lisa was on each other's chests. Not much, nothing to talk about here in their sex
I
scenes.
mean, just shout out to my guy from CSI. You know what I mean? It's good to see my Man back out here in these streets. You feel me?
Hey, hey, man, he gonna one way or another. He gonna get
Michelin chef.
Dr.
Okay.
Wallace.
Yes.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And we get to the end of the episode. And the end of the episode is Carrie being sad in the house and Seema saying, we need to go out. We need to go find a beach. And the two ladies end up in Greece. And Seema says something very poignant. I'm waiting 5 months and you're waiting 5 years for your man. How does
And
that
they're
make
never
us
come back.
look?
Yeah. But she said, what if
What
they
did you
never
just
come back?
come back? Yeah, what if they never come back? What did you think about one, that question, two, that this is the way they chose to end this season?
I think the question is very valid, right? Because what if they don't come back, and how, which is also kind of how does that make us look? I mean, you take a risk on love. I'm gonna always take a risk on love any day. I don't know about waiting 5 years, 5 months. I'm gonna come and see you every other month. I might have come and just stayed the whole 5 months, but
Yeah, but 5 years,
since I
Jesus
decided to
Christ.
do the 5 months solo dolo, 5 years probably not. You don't. There's
Do you
so
know how
much
many
that can
people you have to
happen in
pass
five
on to
years.
wait for 5 years on somebody?
And you not in jail.
When,
You just in West Virginia or in
yeah,
a
see,
barn.
exactly. Treating your child like that's all you're doing here. But again, it shows priorities here.
But I
And when you
love
get Seema and Carrie on the beach, their priority is their friendship.
it's them and them
Yeah,
self care. I was gonna say I feel like it's
yeah,
self care and it's friendship, which I think is it's always gonna be your constant. They say that they
yeah.
they have that funny saying where there's like if you have the right friends around you, you don't need companionship, so to speak. Kind of like it's not that you don't need it, but you don't want it or need it as much because you have
Yes.
that kind of like balance. So
You can have
I
more
think
discernment on who you choose to spend time with
right.
outside of your friends.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I mean, I love this for them. I think it was a great way to end the season for sure because it shows
Hmm.
that what they say, one monkey don't stop no show.
Hey, hey, and that's the perfect way to put it. So, what are your closing final thoughts on? And just like that, season two, not even just the finale, but what are your final thoughts on the entire season this year?
I truly love the progression. They did a very
Yes.
good job. I was very worried in those first two episodes, but they really started to show up. I think like episode 3 or 4, and
Yeah.
they did a really good job at transitioning growth. We actually did get more out of Che's storyline, right? So it
Hmm.
didn't feel pointless. There was just so many. Listen, I would just love to watch the show with my friends present in a group setting and talk about
Mm.
each episode individually. What did you learn? Because there
Mm.
are so many gems for friendships that I don't think people actually get to experience, and or they experience it and not in a good way.
Yeah.
And I think that this was
Yeah.
just it's almost like a book in a sense. If you
Hmm.
think that you have things that you might want to talk about and you're not
Yeah.
sure how to when it comes to friends, like
Hmm.
absolutely this would be my go-to. I really love the growth of the show. I think that they showed everybody's character. There's so many life lessons, so many emotions, and they balance everything really well. Serious, funny, all of that in there was a
Yeah.
great mixing bowl. So I liked it. I'll give it a strong 8.5.
Man, that's a good rating there. For this season, I think you said it perfectly. I remember at the beginning of the season, the first two episodes, I thought this is going to be horrible going through this series. But once episode three picked up and it got better the second viewing, and after that, it's been just rolling through with some of the old antics that made people absolutely love the original Sex in the City. You just put a new little spin on it, and the newer you get, I think everything that people thought the show was going to be when this was announced, more than what we kind of got at the beginning of the season, which kind of felt like more dread than what people got in season one that they didn't like.
Right.
But here, I think we finally get to see that maybe this show can be done well of showing older people in these situations and still feel unique, even though it's a sequel to one of the biggest shows of all time. So I absolutely love the second half. The last three-fourths of the season is really good TV
Yeah.
that more people need to give an opportunity to see. Granted, it's probably still doing good numbers, but still get an opportunity to see. And again, it comes from a shaky start,
Yeah.
which sometimes those be the best shows to watch. It's something that it's hard to get through those first two episodes, and you be like, man, I don't know if I could do this. And then
Yeah.
by the episode 10 or 11, you're completely hooked on it. But again, thank you all for tuning in every week to listen to us review, recap, and just like that, you could catch also on a multitude of other shows. I know I have a couple of shows lined up. I know Amaya has another Max original series coming up that she'll be covering.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll find something else to cover with us too again, or maybe we'll add a third and you know I'm doing a little menage
Spice it up.
review. There you go.
Spice it up.
There you go. But again,
Right.
thank you all for tuning in. Like, subscribe, comment. Let us know your final thoughts on season 2. Let us know your thoughts on Aiden telling Carrie, you need to wait 5 years for me. Man, I need to get that line off. It's just amazing to me. 5 years, my guy. 5 long years.
You know what I
What
just
do you
saw? I saw
what?
the Denzel gif when he's like slamming the door, like
Oh,
what? He wouldn't have been able to get fired. Nothing. What? No. Go on, sir.
yeah, that is absolutely ridiculous. Let us know what you think about Charlotte and Harry. We've always talked about just how solid their marriage is here, but Charlotte trying finally putting her foot down and let them know like I do this every day for a living. I'm good at it. You just getting there, grasshopper. You'll catch up eventually. And finally, what you to think about the cameo of Samantha in this episode? Was it what you wanted? I know more. I know it's a possibility people wanted more, but knowing the background situation, do you think this was just good enough to ride the character off in the sunset? And again, thank you for tuning in. Peace, people.
Reconnects.